Hey, greetings there. It is GleeCon here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. On our last one, we read a chapter in Cycle of Hatred where we learned about the history of Egwene and how she was selected to become the first female Garden and the penultimate guardian of all of the Tiras Fallen. We've also been doing our Warcraft and then World of Warcraft Dungeons and Dragons role-playing game campaign setting exploration, and we recently finished the World of Warcraft campaign setting, and now we're moving on. Essentially, they then redid all of the books, so stay a while and listen as we read this update to Magic and Mayhem called More Magic and Mayhem. And on the front here, we have an orc. He looks like he's one of the Rune Warrior classes, or whatever they're called, Rune Masters. He's fighting a dwarf, possibly a Wildhammer dwarf, who also looks to have a technological staff, maybe, and a night elf with undies on and some kind of magical sword or something with a little stone there. Looks like a hearthstone. All right, and this is the back that talks about new magic and technology. And yeah, so this one's going to continue to be about magic and tech. So they give some authors, and it looks like the authors were divided into different, like one guy made the tech stuff, one person worked on magic, yada yada yada. And we're just busting the legalese out right away on page 2. We have a table of contents. It looks like there are not parts. This time it's divided into 5 chapters. We will maybe stick to 1 chapter per. All right, so this introduction is just telling us what's going to happen. I'm not going to read it because we are going to read it on our own when we get there. And then it says, what's the deal with the old Magic and Mayhem? Let's get some clarity by reading that. It says, since you're holding this book in your hands, odds are you've already flipped through it and realized how new and valuable it is. However, you may not be thinking along those lines. Perhaps you notice this book on the shelf and think, uh-oh. You think, gee, they just came out with a new edition of the game's core book, and now they're coming out with a new edition of the Magic and Tech book. If you are particularly up on your Warcraft RPG trivia, you may also be thinking, and there's this new developer in charge of the line. I did just notice that when we were looking at the banks and authors just now. In any case, your primary concern is they're going to come out with new editions of all the old books. This bodes ill, and that is what they're going to do. Well, if you are thinking along those lines, allow me to put your fears at rest. While More Magic Mayhem is related to the original Magic Mayhem, it's composed primarily of new, popular, and ultra crunchy material. Use both books. Crush your foes. Okay? Well, we'll see how it goes. So there are the base classes. Here's chapter 1. It's called Spell Slingers and Gear Grinders. It includes 3 new base classes: the Inscriber, which is part of the Arcanist path, so it's more of a spec; the Witch Doctor, a new spec on the healer class; and the Rune Master. I'm pretty sure those were all in the original. These classes supplement the base classes presented so far. Okay, so we will read the descriptions of each of these. The Arcanist Path Inscriber, which is funny because Inscription does become a job with Wrath of the Lich King. So again, this far back, they're starting to kick that idea around. They like it. Inscribers are arcanists who have discovered the strange arts of rune casting. But that is one thing that's different, is that I've now changed the name to Inscriber. So there's a little evolution there, closer to where it's at now. A technique for channeling the arcane energy inherent in the world without the risk of arcane corruption. The Inscriber is not a rune master, for he pursues the arcane knowledge and spellcasting techniques of all arcanists. He seeks to add the powers of runes to his repertoire as well. Rune masters look upon Inscribers with some measure of hesitation, for they are proof that there is a connection between pure arts of rune casting and the more vulgar magics of mage, warlock, and necromancer. In the meantime, Inscribers seek out rune masters to teach them new runes, as well as written works that describe the power of the rune patterns. Also, unlike rune masters, Inscribers are more likely to use runes to enhance their companions and their possessions. Rune masters focus on developing a personal connection to the world's natural magic and tend to scribe runes predominantly on their own bodies. Inscribers still use spellbooks, though these spellbooks may contain impressive formulae for channeling the power of runes that other arcanists can't make heads or tails of. It says that inscribers are usually humans and gnomes, also some forsaken. It says many are lawful. What weird, but intellect base class, they can be any affiliation. Okay, so the class features, they do gain inscribed runes, runic mysteries, and so they can use arcane spells as runes. So this is interesting, and it is more like the profession of the inscriber. So if nothing else, it's more of a curio, but it does allow us to start seeing that that in the background percolating is the idea of using runes, inscribing them to make magical effects, and that does come to a fruition in a few years. Okay, healer path, witch doctor. The witch doctor is an alchemical master, skilled at not simply brewing potions and alchemical goods, but at awakening the spirits of the ingredients that go into her goods. A witch doctor at work can be unsettling, for she croons and chants to the herbs and animal parts that go into her brews, shaking a rattle to awaken them from their slumber, and sometimes even bursting into dance to appease them and make them favor her. Okay, I still think, this is a Diablo class and an NPC class, but they have yet to allow this class for PCs. I guess there's just not enough to make it distinct, but whatever. Okay, it says that they are only found among races of the Horde. It's mostly trolls, although some non-trolls can dabble. They have spontaneous casting, and good ones can do cure. They can turn and rebuke undead. That's just because they're technically on the healer path. They get the witch doctor's brews. So more importantly, similarly to the inscriber, we are really honing in on the importance of an alchemist as a profession. They have a juju potion, mojo, big mojo, yeah. So they have some. It says mojo is a set of specialized techniques for brewing potions. It's not simply knowledge that allows the creation of mojo. They awaken the spirits of their ingredients. Okay. There's berserker mojo, clay mojo, which is like oils that can be embedded in special clay that can coat weapons. So yeah, these are more things that are going to go with the alchemist class. Oh, here's some extra mojos. Those are basic mojos, intermediate mojos, advanced mojos. Okay, whatever. And then the Rune Master class itself, which this is never a thing. There might be some NPCs that are kind of Rune Masters, but they just totally ditched this, which they've obviously liked it for a while or not. I mean, we got to be careful not to put too much into things, because they kicked around some ideas in the first book sets. Then they basically handed it over to new people who are perhaps going to slavishly just try and remake what was already made, in which case it will appear that they've doubled down on some of these classes, such as Rune Master, when really it doesn't add any extra weight to it. So let's read the description. The Rune Master is a mystic who sees the power and importance of ley lines. Moreover, those who study runes understand that these are not simply symbols of power. They are power. The Rune Master seeks to become one with the land, but not in the fashion of druids. Rather, the Rune Master desires to become a microcosm of the land, seeking to overlay his body with runes in the same fashion that the land itself is overlaid with patterns of ley lines. Most Rune Masters are heavily tattooed with runic patterns, not simply the unique ones that form the basis for rune families, but the so-called simple runes as well. Simple runes mimic patterns of ley energy that appear again and again in the environment. These patterns occur in nature and are responsible for things such as the strength of a given type of stone, the ferocity of a given windstorm, and the coolness of a given stream. When a Rune Master uses these patterns, he learns to channel his natural power into them at all times, attaining similar traits. Okay, it says Tauren created these, but now elves, orcs, trolls, even some humans and dwarves. And they can be found across. So I do think this is interesting, and I wonder what happens with this class. It's a spirit-based, so a divine magic, wisdom-based type of thing. If you notice, they don't have a path. They're just their own straight-up class. They do have runic magic, which they're going to talk about in the next chapter. Again, they're scribing runes like the inscriber. They have enruned fists, adding extra damage to them. So that's sort of similar to Death Knights putting enchantments on their weapons. The simple runes, which give them looks like some just basic generic powers, such as Rune of the Mangroves, that gives them immunity to non-magical poison. And they have to level up to learn more runes. So this is these runes that they learn. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a parallel in World of Warcraft, and I just can't. Hastened Empowerment, Runic Sense, and they give a full-on... These are the rune slots they get, which are basically spell slots. So yeah, this is no path. This is a completely new class. Again, some rune dispelling, rune feats. It's interesting. I really would like to try to figure that out. All right, and then there's some prestige classes. There's the Argent Dawn Templar. This seems new. Argent Dawn Templars, often called simply Templars, are devoted followers of the Holy Light who have chosen to cast away the traditions of the past to find the best ways possible to fight the growing forces of darkness in the world. Like paladins, Argent Dawn Templars often oppose demons and undead, but Templars learn to use the Holy Light to strike against other forms of evil with equal potency. Okay? To aid in the seemingly impossible struggles against the Scourge and the Burning Legion, the Templars study all forms of combat, and they find powerful and unique uses for the Holy Light. These unique abilities carry a price, however. As an Argent Dawn Templar delves deeper into studies of the light, she abandons her old teachings and connections to the world. Many Templars sacrifice much of their wealth in their continuing battle against the forces of darkness in the world, but the greatest are more greatly transformed. Former paladins cast off their plate armor, or even abandon their old powers in favor of the new secrets they discover. Some observers claim that the eldest Templars require such sacrifices from their disciples. Others believe that the secrets of these knights, the secrets that they discover, somehow drives them away from their former lives and powers. Those few who know of the Argent Dawn Templars speak of strange and mysterious rituals the knights perform in search of new and greater powers, while a few of the Church of the Holy Light's most traditional paladins and priests condemn this unusual behavior. None can dispute the Templars' effectiveness. Rumors abound of knights powerful enough to shield themselves from any form of harm, or to banish a servant of the Burning Legion from Azeroth in a single strike. All members of the Argent Dawn Templars, all Argent Dawn Templars are members of the Argent Dawn, so they're an independent organization that combats the Scourge, the Burning Legion, and Twilight's Hammer, and any other source of corruption. They are mostly paladins, a few healers, mostly humans, a few dwarves and high elves. They see their organization as a small silver light shining in the darkness of the world around them. Templars see corruption in their homes and many other organizations, including the Knights of the Silver Hand. While the Templars see paladins as allies and vice versa, Templars feel that the Silver Hand overemphasizes tradition and order over general goodness and the other values of the light. Templars are virtually unknown in the world as a whole, although the Argent Dawn itself is widespread. The few Templars form a close-knit and elite group, often serving as leaders for groups of paladins and priests without revealing their unusual paths. And I believe story-wise, they're part of the group that becomes the Burning Crusade, but the path that realizes the Burning Crusade is wrong and splits off and stays good. I think that's their backstory. So they're like almost more devoted paladins. They have to be good, therefore, and then they're usually paladins. I mean, they're former paladins, so they're usually lions. What do they get? They do gain some spell slots, but that's typical to paladins. They have Holy Mastery. They select a special ability described below. So they can have a Burning Strike, Blessed Revelation, which gives them an extra powerful spell, Divine Shield, Holy Power, Holy Shock, Sacred Spells, Sanctity Aura. Yeah, so they're very similar to paladins. I'm not even really seeing a huge difference. Okay, there's the Enchanter. The creation of a magic item is a difficult and time-consuming procedure that is mentally and physically draining. The craftsperson must put a little of himself into every magically empowered item he produces, leaving him ever so slightly diminished from his efforts. Some have sought an alternative to this method, the path of the Enchanter. Enchanters learn secret ways to seize the arcane or divine power imbued within every magic item, drawing it into themselves as the item is destroyed. They then redirect this raw energy into an existing item through the use of mystical formulas only they can hope to understand. The refocused magic provides the object with new abilities above and beyond what it may already possess. So this is not an enchanter in the Dungeons and Dragons sense, but more in the profession for World of Warcraft. So this is if you wanted to have a class, a prestige class, that really made you focus on the profession of enchanting. You got disenchanting, and yeah, that's all that this is. Okay, a Laywalker. This sounds new. It is an occult truth known to all who study the ways of magic and spellcraft that great lines of power crisscross the lands of Azeroth. These lines of magic are often harnessed for mighty magical purposes, from the creation of moonwells to, some say, the powerful glowing dome in Dalaran, which exists in Classic. It is simply assumed that those with power eventually must seek out one of these sites, but those who study the mysteries of the ley lines discover something more. Certainly there are lines of power that run across the land in a select few areas, but these are not the only lines, simply the most obvious. If these are thick, corded ropes of power, there are also tiny web-like threads that run between these great ley lines, connecting them in a vast net of pulsing, subtle power. The Laywalker is a magician who has discovered this fact and seeks to harness the power of these threads. A Laywalker is aware that every moment of every day these threads permeate all things, passing through, around, above, and below all things, carrying magical energy from the well of eternity to all things in the world. With diligent study and practice, Laywalkers sense these powers. The sorcerer's feats of which these men and women are capable are impressive. They're able to draw upon the skein of power to augment their spells, tap into this web to maintain spells past their normal durations, to heal themselves and protect their allies from magic. So this is a prestige arcanist class. I don't really understand what makes them so different, but okay. They gain this ley line attunement, which it seems like this is focused on enhancing metamagic feats. Yeah. Leyline manifestation, they can use healing for that. Ley investment, which basically metamagic extending the spell. They take damage. The caster takes damage from doing it. I see, okay. And the example they use is making a chest invisible for weeks. They have Ley Spell, which, yeah, basically it looks like it improves the spell. Ley Walking, so it's kind of like a teleportation. Ley Weaving, you weave the spells to give you the ley lines to get spell defense, you get extra feats. Yeah, so it's really, if you're focusing, if you really love the meta magic feats, you could focus on them to augment and buff up your spells. Meh. All right, Steam Warrior. This is a cool concept. I wish still exists outside of, or I wish existed outside of NPCs. Look at her. It's like a little mech tiger cat suit. It's kind of cool. Some were born to Steam, gifted with the measures of mechanics and systems, and possessed with an unquenchable thirst for invention. Among those inventors are individuals who push their creations to the limits of technology, testing them in battle and relying on them for their survival. These are the Steam Warriors. Some might crudely explain that Steam Warriors are mechanics who trudge from place to place in phlogiston-powered armor. Ask a Steam Warrior what his calling is, and this is blanked out a little bit, glitched out, and he'll tell you of the thrill of battle, the sound of metal clashing against monster scales, and the adrenaline as a whirring blade slices through metal or bone. To a Steam Warrior, life is more than just a surge of phlogiston through a steam plant, or the rev of engines driving weapons of destruction. To a Steam Warrior, it's all being behind the controls of a mech monolith of powered iron and seeking to destroy an enemy that crosses his path. Steam Warriors are often innovative souls who customize and build their own suits of steam-powered armor, and many are willing to pay a tinker his worth in coin to have the armor modified to exacting specifications. While a Steam Warrior might know the inner workings of his armor intimately, he doesn't need to be a skilled tinker in order to use it. Relying on the expertise of others has become more and more commonplace as no mission goblin technology becomes more available to agents of both the Horde and the Alliance. These gladiators of steam and steel cross the fields of war like massive myrmidons, intent on dealing out punishment with any of a variety of weapons strapped to their armor. The excitement of combat, the power at their fingertips, and the massive weapons they wield are motive enough for others to respect their capabilities, but Steam Warriors go beyond the simple armor they wear. In battle, Steam Warriors are fearless and resolute, capable of enduring the withering fire of musket, spell, or arrow. Their skill at piloting their steam armor allows them to move gracefully and with tremendous speed, reacting faster than one would think possible. While others might simply wear and operate steam armor, Steam Warriors are their armor, merging with it using a combination of skill and concentration, controlling it as easily as a master swordsman wields his blade. Okay. So the big takeaway I have here, I was tempted in the beginning to be like, well, this is basically engineering as a class, but that's not really true. That would be more like the Tinker class. This is more, this is a spec where you're focused straight up on wearing the mech suit at all times. And it says you don't even have to be an engineer to use it. And this is a brand new, anything could be a Steam Warrior, I would imagine. But I would, excuse me. Okay, so it does say Steam Warrior levels count as Tinker levels, so this is a class that's definitely more of an engineering based. They gain an armor bond and just some extra feats that go along with their armor. And we're listing to finish off this. They're going to list the new feats. So there are new rune feats, which focuses on, let's see, we've got additional pattern. Oh, I see. That's just a rule about rune feats, and then you have all of these different ones. Alchemical specialty is an alchemy feat. Got it. So I'm just scanning through to see if I notice anything that is... I like how they have journeyman, alchemist, master alchemist, so corresponding with the profession levels. I'm just seeing if there's anything needed here. Okay, and that brings us all the way through chapter 1. I think that was long enough with reading all the descriptions, and we will continue. There are 4 other chapters in this book before we move on to another one of them. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, for listening, for exploring the side little weird world of lore of Warcraft. This episode, In the Pipe 5x5.